All right, and we are live. Welcome to Life Action Roleplay with
Cynthia Marie
and Omega. And for today's episode, it is called Roleplay Love.
Woohoo! I like love. What are you talking about? What
No,
are you laughing at me for?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I just kind of like the title. And it is actually the idea of one of our guests, which we're going to get to in quite a bit. So let's start off with, traditionally, what are we drinking?
Maker's Mark. Woohoo!
Maker's Mark. Cheers.
Cheers. It's going to be a plastic cheers.
Plastic cheers.
Yes.
In blue solo cups.
So classy.
So classy. All right, and our shout-outs. Did you have one in mind?
I did, but I think we might end up passing it. It had to do with epic cosplay wigs, but I'm in the wig shopping right now, so if anyone got any shout-outs from you about wigs, let me know.
All right, so we will not mention the wig shout-outs.
Right.
And I will not mention my shout-out, which is basically to a lot of my friends on Facebook who have been contributing to many of the LARP discussion posts, because there is a lot that we've been able to cover just because people have been very active with the responses, including one of my most recent posts. Trying to bring this up in a second. Come on, turn on phone.
Had to do with the Google Calendar, right?
The Google Calendar. Actually, it's not the Google Calendar. It's the post where I just thought that there were only 4 different LARPs this weekend.
Just only 4.
Just 4.
Just 4.
I thought 4 was a lot.
I think 4 is a lot. There's more?
There is more. So just giving you a sample, like there is One World by Night Werewolf, One World by Night Camp Vampire. There is a meet and greet for Dystopia Rising. There is Rendelier. There is Mind's Eye Society. The reboot of their vampire. There is.
I didn't know that about that one.
Yeah, and then like some people also.
And there's Coronavirus this weekend.
Yeah, that's the Dystopia Rising. There's also a game called The Colony, which is in Orange County.
Everything's in Orange County right now.
Yeah, like
what the hell?
I mean, there's a lot of people that when I used to roleplay with a vampire in Los Angeles, a lot of people came from the Orange County area because of all the schools down there. Okay. And then they just came up because there's nothing to do in Orange County. Shouldn't have said that, but that's what they believed at the time.
So hold on, before we digress, we should introduce our guest here so they can dive into this conversation as well.
Yes, sorry, I got into this nerdy. Let's list all the things.
I know. I'm gonna like fish line you and like reel you in just a little bit.
All right, thank you.
Let's get them
Right.
introduced.
So we have 2 guests today that we are happy to have here on Life Action Roleplay. We have John Basset and Angela Basset. John is the creator of one of the bigger games that I have played called Twin Mask. And Angela has been a role player for quite a while. Should we say the number of years you've been role playing?
I mean, I can. I've been LARPing for 18 years now.
18 years.
Yeah, it's been 16 or 17 years for me, too.
Right on.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess let's talk a little bit, since you are here, let's talk a little bit about Twin Mask.
Yeah, so since I'm the noob, I have never played Twin Mask, but I did a lot of research on your website. So can you please tell me, what is Twin Mask all about?
Yeah, sure. So it's a fantasy medieval game. The basic premise is that you've died, and you've come back to life to right some wrong, or whatever it is that pulls your spirit back. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's the thing that unifies all the players. It gives you kind of purpose when you just start out into the game, and it also does a good job justifying our death mechanic. So,
wow.
Yeah, so that's the basic premise.
Cool. You have a favorite moment that you experience or have seen or anything that has to do with Twin Mask?
A favorite moment?
Favorite moment.
Of the 6 or 7 years it's been
around?
I
mean,
a favorite moment.
How about I just talk about a few favorite moments from last game?
Great.
Well, one would be we stuffed everyone in a squiggly and gross little escape room. Okay. Let me clarify that.
I got a mouthful of whiskey and I got scared.
Context.
Okay, so one of the mods that we ran last game, we decided that, this worm sort of ate a whole bunch of PCs, and we brought them to the mod site, blindfolded them, and had them crawl around in this area that was coated with spider webs, and, we used hand sanitizer, so anything they touched felt slimy.
Oh.
But it was still clean.
Yeah, it was still clean.
Yes, clearly.
And then we had little parasites skittering around, and we had these really cool audio tracks. What we wanted to do with that mod is we wanted them to experience more tactile, so listening, feeling, hearing, just even smelling, just all these aspects of a mod that you don't necessarily experience. So that was just a really fun encounter.
Yeah, it was interesting because just planning the mod, I've kind of been interested in escape rooms for a while. I haven't actually done one because they kind of freak me out.
They're amazing.
But I like the concept of them, and I keep thinking how do I want to incorporate this in a LARP setting? How do I do this? And so as we're planning this mod, I was like, wait a minute, this is totally an escape room. We just created an escape room because the players didn't know going into it what they needed to do to progress. Mm-hmm. They had to go around and try to figure it out. So one of the things was you have to pop all these balloons. So they have to grab these balloons, first of all find them because they're blindfolded, and then they have to pop them by hand, which in a LARP setting a lot of times people don't necessarily think about the fact that they have to actually do these things.
Right.
Not
right.
pretend that you're doing it.
Yeah.
You have to actually do it. So I was a little concerned about that at first, but I was let's just take away their weapons. It's fine. Then they won't be able to pretend that they're doing it. They have to actually do it with their hands.
That's brilliant.
And we had in-character justifications for everything. But yeah, the more you can make a mod appeal to the other senses, the better,
Yeah, and people were very terrified. I think we might have scarred some people for life.
I'm sure you would have scarred me if I'd done it. My claustrophobia and my creepy out of all the creepy crawlies, my anxiety would have gone through the roof.
Well, we did, warn people beforehand.
I would have tapped out. I'd be I'm done.
But that was a really fun mod.
Right on. Well, tell us a little bit more about you, about how you got into LARPing.
So I started LARPing when I was 16. My friends were into it, but I kept hearing about it for I think probably about a year before I even actually joined, and then finally I ended up going to an event, and it was I just remember thinking, oh my god, this is exactly what I was looking for. Because, I was always that kid that was, running around in the woods with my friends, pretending that we were, characters from ElfQuest. But, so when somebody described LARPing to me, I was like, oh my god, there's actually a setting, and you have rules that you play by, and you actually do this stuff. The first person that ever told me about their in-character experiences told me from completely in-character point of view. So, I was just, enraptured by their stories. I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. And yeah, I was pretty much hooked ever since. And I think I played the same game for about 8 years. Didn't really feel a need to look at other games. I didn't even know there were other games at the time, which, apparently there were tons around me. Because even John was playing in a LARP that was different from the LARP that I started playing. Mm-hmm. And then, I think about 2 years after I started playing this game, John ended up finding it. So that's actually how we met.
Right on. That was actually my next question. How did you meet?
There you go. We met Friday night at 6 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Outdoors.
Well, so Saturday.
Well, okay, whatever. It was still Friday game for me. It's not the next day until I go to sleep, okay? But yeah, so yeah. But even when we met, it wasn't we got together at that point. We knew each other for a couple of years before we actually got together, but that was the first time we met.
We met at, So she was waiting outside the garrison building, waiting to yell at like the royal guard because her in-character boyfriend had just been assassinated. So
Yeah.
that's how we met.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, John
I'm not
was,
saying I did it,
No.
but
but
it
John
worked out.
was the only person. He was the only person that was actually awake at that point. So I'm like, I need to vent to somebody.
Was it January?
It was January.
Yeah, I remember, and I think I was awake because I forgot to bring... Okay, so this was on the East Coast, and it was pretty cold.
Okay. Where exactly?
Virginia.
Northern Virginia.
Okay.
And anyway, the cabin that I was at, like, there were inch gaps in all the planks, and I forgot to bring a sleeping bag, blankets, and it was cold. It was really cold. So I put on, like, every bit of costuming that I had, and I woke up sore the next day because I was shivering the entire night just to, make sure I didn't die.
Yeah.
And, so that's why I was awake really early.
I bet, yeah. Feeling like the Michelin Man.
Yup.
All right. Well, okay. So how long have you guys been married?
10 years.
10 years.
Yep.
Wow,
10
congratulations.
years
Congrats.
last month. So yeah.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
I won't go into married life, but...
At what point did you realize that you wanted to do more than just be character friends?
Okay. So I'll start that story off.
Story with that.
Well, okay, it's a little scandalous, not gonna lie. Because I was actually
Do tell.
married to somebody else at the time.
Oh.
At one point, I think John's character did some daring rescue and saved my life. So at that point, I was like, my character should have feelings for this guy. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have feelings for this guy. I don't care what his opinion is, but that's just the way it is. So so it kind of turned into this thing where I'm like, I love you, and John's character's like, but I love the princess.
Like you do. Like you do.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, and that was all the in-character aspects of it, but it took a while for me to beat him over the head with it. And finally he was just like, okay, well, I guess it just makes sense that we should be together. I make it sound very unromantic, but I mean, it really was.
Is it because boys are clueless?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, I think John obviously knew. He just role-played it being ignorant for the longest time.
Was it really roleplay?
No.
Yeah. Okay, so in character, you pretended to be ignorant, too.
Well played.
But
Yay,
yeah.
John!
Yeah, I mean, it might, the fact that the princess ended up stabbing you might have also helped. There was just
Controversy.
What?
Oh, and the princess obviously was in love with somebody else too. So it was just a long line of unrequited feelings
It was
going
a straight up
up.
soap opera.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we're saying.
So how do I sign up for this LARP?
It doesn't exist anymore.
No. Well, they're trying to reboot it, but yeah, it actually ended.
It was a game called Avalon back in Virginia, but I think recently they decided to end it. We're a little bit out of the loop, but
it's been a few years, but obviously at some point after that, we started dating out of character as well, but it all started in character.
So, okay, so you guys currently obviously run Twin Mass. Do you guys participate in other LARPs as well?
I currently don't.
Yeah, I try to keep myself grounded, because when you're running a LARP, you deal with all the negative aspects of the game. It's nothing but drama, logistics, a lot, the actual storytelling, the reason why you, get into running a game, becomes, a much smaller percentage than I'd like. So to remind myself that I love LARP, I try to at least play in one game.
Okay.
So I'm currently in a post-apocalyptic game.
Right on.
To be fair, having played in Twin Mass since game 1, if you did have drama, it was very, very minor, or I barely heard it.
A lot of it people don't really see.
Well, I think we do a good job mitigating it, resolving it before it blows up, things like that. But, the fact that you don't see my private messages is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, not saying that we have a ton of drama, but
No.
like for the most part, like most people don't see it either.
And anytime, I mean, it's not even like anytime you get a group of people together, you know, egos clash, you know, relationships happen, people break up, you know, just stuff happens.
Of course.
So it's the same. I mean, when you're dealing with 100 people who are all very passionate about the game, you know.
Like, you mentioned relationships and, I guess, the drama that comes with that. Is that, like, a majority of what you're almost dealing with? I'm not saying that you have to name any of that, but it is something that I'm...
No, it's a mixed bag.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, that has actually been a minor. Like, I can't even really put my finger on any specific relationship-based drama that we've had.
Most relationship drama doesn't concern us.
Yeah.
That's drama that might affect a small, like, clique within our game, but the players normally resolve that themselves. Yeah, no, it's a huge variety, and every game deals with them.
Okay, so we've all role-played with friends, we've all role-played with loved ones. Have we ever taken, this is horrible of me to say, but I'm going to go for it anyways. Have we ever taken advantage of such relationships? So what I mean by that is you know somebody super well, right, outside of life, and they've obviously are a character inside, and so you know that person verbatim pretty much. Have you ever taken advantage of the fact that you know certain things about them? Has that ever played?
I think for me, the only point where that kind of plays in is sometimes, like, especially in regards to, like, physical role play. Like, if I know the person really well, like, I feel like I can take more liberties role-playing with them.
Cool.
And, like, vice versa. Whereas with, like, other people, you know, I'd want to check in first and be like, hey, is it okay, you know, consent to physical role play, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, like I could physically be holding Angela back in a dramatic moment, whereas if I didn't know Angela well, you might not want to do that.
One thing I do notice is that in Twin Mask, there is a lot of people who do ask the term, do you consent to physical role play, if you do not know if the person would react well to, like, either being hugged or being held back, or something that's even more aggressive. Sometimes they tackle someone else to the ground, and that's not very common at all. That's why they always ask, do you consent to physical role play?
That's typically not allowed, but...
Straight from the storyteller.
Yes.
Not allowed.
It usually does.
Yeah.
Okay, doing things like that in combat are almost always going to be unsafe, in which case I'm saying, like, that's not allowed. But one approach that I take, which is different than some other games, is we're all adults. All right. If you're there with your friend and it's in a 100% safe environment, I'm kind of okay with you both making an adult choice. Just if you end up banging your head on a rock or something, that's still your fault. As an adult, you should have known better. You know what I mean? But again, like, that's like in a non-combat situation where you're more or less roughhousing with your friends. I mean, like, when I was in elementary school, what do you think I did at recess? You know, I was always wrestling with friends. So, I mean...
I was jump roping.
Oh. Okay. Well, you could jump rope, too.
I got hurt plenty of times doing that, too.
Yeah.
But, no, in general, like, you have to be careful with any sort of physical RP and make sure that all parties are on the same page. And, you know, the respect is the big focus here.
Yeah, I think also, like, just bringing it back to... what Sin was saying, the, like, being more familiar with somebody on an out-of-character level. Like, even in RP situations, I think if you know the person better, you're going to, like, be more comfortable going, like, all out. Like, say, like, I'm playing a character that's going to go, like, specifically bitch somebody out. Like, I would feel bad if I didn't know the person out of character, because I wouldn't know if that person... thinks that, like, out of character I have something against them or they did something wrong. But, like, if it's somebody that I know really well, like, I feel like they would understand, like, immediately, like, this is not me out of character.
Yeah, you also have to be careful with, like, a blanket term like permission for physical role play, because I was at one game, not our game for the record, but I was at one game and someone asked that question. The person's like, yeah, sure, permission granted. And then the other person kissed them on the lips. And
whoa.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, It's sort of like you don't necessarily know what you're agreeing to.
Right. It's like consent to physical role play. I grab your boob. What? No.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know.
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I would, as a new player, if I were to be given that caveat, given all of the possible variations of what could possibly happen, I would probably say no.
And it's certainly possible that there's more to the relationship that I observed than that I knew.
Right.
But like it threw me off because normally I would say yes almost all the time, but like if someone were to do that to me, Angela would kill them the next day.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's funny because the opposite has happened to me too, where I've had close friends take advantage of the fact that they, know me well out of character and like literally grab me and stage kiss me without warning. I mean, granted, it was a stage kiss, so it wasn't a big deal, but it still, like, was like, whoa, what's going on? Because it was, like, full, like, tilt back, like...
Right, and you have to wrestle with that as a character now, with that moment.
Yeah, and considering the character, it was really awkward, because that character didn't have a tongue, so I was like, ooh.
Oh.
That's weird. But yeah, so, I mean, like, yeah, it's...
All right.
I mean, I've been slapped at it. I've been slapped, too, which, again, at the time, I was like, okay,
by the way,
I guess we're doing
listening, that. We've been LARPing for, 17 years, so this is not typical behavior.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Just throwing that out there. I don't want any listener thinking that this is,
please don't do that.
Fair point. So I'm going to flip the question in reverse. So, again, knowing the people that you are role-playing with, have you ever had a moment where somebody kind of checked in with you and knew that something was possibly wrong? And was able to kind of, get you out of that situation.
Sort of like a metagaming, but just to check in with someone to make sure that they're okay?
Right.
I did have a situation that was a really intense RP scenario between my character and the person who was my in-character brother-in-law. And we, literally just found out some, super, super messed up information about his brother, my in-character husband. And the RP was so intense that, it was literally just me and him and the storyteller that was describing the information in the room, but we had to call, a mini timeout to kind of deal with it, because it was really just, we were, hugging each other crying. That's how intense it was. Wow. So, we had to kind of take ourselves out of it for a little bit, because, yeah.
Yeah, but usually those are the moments that I love the most about LARP.
Agreed.
The first time I was able to actually shed tears and actually cry at an event, it was one of the highlights of my LARP career, just because it was so emotionally profound. And I've only done that a handful of times, but I really love that LARP can bring out those emotions in people. When you get into Nordic LARP and all that stuff, they view LARP as a form of self-actualization and how you can experience things in LARP that you can't experience in normal day-to-day LARP life. So,
I know that recently when we had the Battle of Port Frey at Twin Mask, which was a very big epic battle that they took 2 years to just plan. I think it was quite a long time, just in character. It started at some point, and then it accumulated into this big battle with several demons. I was playing a character named Kantabas, which is a demon himself, and he gets possessed. But I also play that he is possessed, but he's also while during his possession he's fighting his friends, but he's also fighting the possession as well. So I play someone who is hitting his friends with fire, and at the same time freaking out that he's hurting his friends, and then trying to fight the demon in possession inside. And because there was so much screaming and crying for straight 15 or 20 minutes, and people were physically grabbing me to calm me down, people were checking with me afterwards, are you okay? And that scene was amazing and intense, and I'm glad that people did, but I was fine. But the next day, I lost... My voice was very hoarse for a week.
Of course.
But I but it was like one of my best roleplay moments like ever. But I'm glad that people do make the point to check with me just to make sure that I was okay, because the anger and the crying was so intense.
You know, sometimes I actually get frustrated when people check in on me.
Oh.
Like, I'm experiencing this emotionally intense thing, and then someone's like, "Oh, out of character, are you okay?" Or
Right,
whatever. I mean,
so it throws you out of the moment.
yeah, sometimes people like have a symbol, but regardless, like, yeah, you're literally taking like doing something immersion breaking, or sometimes when I'm NPCing and I like get hit and like my little crunchy goblin or whatever dies, I'll do like dramatic death and like throw myself down a hill, and sometimes people like call holds, and I'm like, okay, I did that to try to create a cool immersion, immersive moment, and you just called a hold or did something which completely broke.
Froze the action.
Yeah, and
so do you have any advice to someone who wants to check in as a good human Samaritan, I suppose, but also respects the fact that you're creating this sort of dramatic action? What is the best way to
the best check-in system that I think I've probably seen is the thumbs up, thumbs down one.
Okay. I think Dystopia Rising came up with
yeah,
that.
It's like an okay sign that you give.
It's a thumbs up. It's a thumbs up.
DR didn't create it; they just adopted it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's thumbs up. You know, is the like lead in to like, are you okay? And like the response.
No, it's an okay symbol.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. So yeah, and then the thumbs up is good.
Is I'm good. Thumbs down is I'm bad, and then middle is I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably
So if you're throwing yourself down the hill, if I give you an okay sign, it is okay for you to symbol that, or should I wait till the end?
In the instance of me throwing myself down a hill.
I love that.
Okay, if I'm injured, I can call to hold myself.
Right,
That's
or something like that.
Yeah.
Or at least like wait a minute to see if he gets up afterwards.
Yeah, it's like don't call my injury or my safety stuff unless it's obvious, you know?
I think that's probably the part that I think most people tend to do because they get to like trying to be aware of everybody else's well-being. I think the best thing is probably just to let people police themselves. Like if I'm not okay for like physical injury, like I, in theory should be able to like do something about it. I mean, there have been cases where that isn't the case, like when I fell back and like slammed my head on like the pavement. But I think that was pretty obvious. But like, yeah, in cases with John specifically, because he's parkour maniac, sometimes people are like, oh my god, but...
So I'll address a point where, so I do acting and dance. I'm a professional dancer on the side, but in the acting realm, we have done exercises where we have had to go from laughing hysterically to crying maniacally, and you have somebody who's like kind of holding on to you. Maniacally is not a word, but you totally understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so there was a point where I was doing this exercise where we were going through every single point of it to the point where I just started crying and crying and crying and I couldn't stop crying, and somebody finally had to like grab me and say, "Are you okay?" And I like at that point I had to address it myself, like, what's wrong with me? And I like ran to the bathroom because clearly I was dealing with a couple of people who had died in my life. So going through these sort of exercises made me kind of realize that. So in the LARP world, when you see someone kind of invest themselves in that kind of a moment, at what point is a safe point to say, is that person dealing with something outside of their life, or...
I would say once the scene has played out would be a good time to check in, because usually I think the problem is when the scene is happening and you interrupt it.
Yeah.
Fair.
So like, because I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like that happens to me at LARP a lot. Usually it's like I'm role-playing something that's intense, I make myself start crying, and then all of a sudden, like, the tiredness, the whatever, the stress, it just all hits me, and all of a sudden it's just full-on ugly crying.
And you're like, oh crap, I can't turn it off.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think this is more evidence of the therapeutic nature of LARP, too, though.
Love it.
That's true, yeah. But yeah, no, it happens a decent amount. But yeah, I would say just wait until like the moment has passed, and then you can always check in with
Cool,
people.
because like as a loving friend, I always like want to check in and make sure like, are you okay? Like, do I need to get you something?
Yeah.
But I also really love to roleplay a bitch. So if I see somebody crying, like technically I'd be like laughing at you.
LARP is also a very close-knit game. You know, like Ryan's been playing Twin Mask for a long time, and he probably knows most of the players really well. So like, he might know when someone's actually upset or someone's role-playing being upset. You
Right.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and that comes with time. But
And also relationships, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you know the person well enough outside of the world, it would be assumed that you would know them well enough to get these sort of social cues, right?
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, with many of these relationships, it's very rare that I would want to role play an enemy of someone unless I knew them very well. So a really big example is Molly's character, where she's our postmistress at LOJ, and there's just not because I know how she role plays like so well. Like, we can be enemies and we can like butt heads and we'll be fine.
Right.
But I can't necessarily do that with a new player unless I understand my comfort level with that character. Are they okay with that? Because if you're a new player, it's very easy to assume, oh my god, this person doesn't like me. And with Twin Mask right now, I play a character who's kind of like the governor and the ruler, so I can't really play the I hate you card, especially with new players. I want to make sure that, I mean, I can, but I don't want to. Like, this is kind of a thing that I want to do to make sure that new players are feeling welcome.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So, like, LOJ, my character is very, very perceived as standoffish or almost bitchy to a point. So I always have to walk this fine line with patrons who don't really know my character of kind of giving off this air of, I really don't give a care about you unless you're going to talk to me. But I also don't want them to perceive me as a total bitch. So I have to, like, figure out this, like, how do I walk this line of, I'm mean, but I'm not that mean if you actually talk to me? Sort of a deal.
We get that a lot too with just playing different NPCs. It's like, oh hey, I mostly played NPCs this weekend that were like aloof and bitchy. Hey guys, I'm not really like that out of character, just so you know.
Yeah.
That's why afters is so important.
That's true.
Right.
That's like really good. And also having just like in between game gatherings where you can like hang out of character, but not, you know, as your character. Because then like I've actually had a few people say like, oh, I never knew like you were like this. Like, you know, just you get to know people better and you don't see them as their character, which is, you know, sometimes very different.
That actually happened to me in my first LARP where, because nobody met me, so it was the first time I was playing my La Sombra, total up-nosed bitch, and just walked around like I didn't give two craps about anyone except for if they had information for me. And at the like gathering, like afterwards, people were like, "Oh my god, we loved your character. You were so in character of La Sombra. We totally thought you were the meanest person ever." And I was like, "I'm not. I swear. I'm really nice. Just make that clear. I'm not that bad. But I had fun playing her, so I'm gonna do that again." So yeah, I totally get that. Right on. I think we're kind of coming towards our close if you wanted to kind of wrap things up.
Any more relationship questions?
You got any?
No, like, I guess in my case, like, my view on relationships is a little bit different just because, part of it is because I am gay, and so those relationships play out very differently in a LARP. That might sound really, really weird. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm openly gay, so it's not, like, so that's not a secret. But I have noticed that some guys do tend to flirt, and I leave it as that. Mm-hmm. If it's anything that is more than that, then that becomes a discussion. It's one of those, you have to be very, very careful about this.
Yeah, well, you and I had a discussion previously about what has gone on when it goes past that.
When it goes past that, it's like, okay.
I have to say, I've loved the fact, though, that Ryan's PC is like this ladies' man in-game.
Yes.
And back in the day, we used to send him tons of, like, love letters from fictitious, like, conquests of his character's past. And
oh, my.
Yes.
A ladies' man? I don't buy that.
Yeah, I've had a few fun moments with that, too, because, so, I feel more comfortable in character flirting with, Ryan because he's gay.
Right.
So, I was playing a character who kind of runs a brothel, and I see Ryan, and I'm like, he has lots of money. Hi. Whereas, most of the other, men, I'm like, I'm ignoring you.
Yeah, and that's kind of, again, just so that people don't get the wrong idea, because the emotions that you experience in LARP are real. Regardless of if it's a fake setting, a fake situation, whatever, you're experiencing real emotions. So if I feel, if I start feeling love towards a character, you're still feeling love, or you're still feeling anger, or you're still feeling whatever. So, that's just something to keep in mind anytime you interact with someone.
Yeah, actually, the way that kind of we go about in-character relationships is probably a little different from most people in that, we don't, unless it's our own characters, which, we still don't always do that either, but mostly because we recognize that, and since our relationship was kind of based on that, we're like, let's just not get involved with other people's characters.
Our relationship started in character and then went out of character. So because we recognize that, and also, I studied theater for a long time, and I used to observe the same thing. It's like, oh, you're doing a play, and hey, the main male love interest character is now dating the main female love interest character.
Imagine that.
Yeah, but when you see it time and time again, maybe some people can pull it off, but it's...
because I know some people have said, oh, well, that's kind of an immature way of going about it. Oh, you can't distinguish your out-of-character feelings from your in-character feelings. Well, that's fine. The reason why I play is to feel things.
Right.
I LARP to feel something.
Yeah,
and
you don't want
to right. Well, and I also don't want to feel anything towards anybody else's characters. So I just...
Well, and you're also going through an experience together. So, I did a show where I ended up with one of the actors. And it was just during the run of the show. After the run of the show, I was like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But regardless, is that we were all experiencing these heightened emotions, and you just kind of get together and you experience these things together, and once it's all over, you have to learn how to just either let it go or explore it, between you two when you guys
and everyone's different. Everyone's going to come to their own relationship solutions.
Right.
But
that's just the way that we do it, which can be interesting sometimes because people don't always get that. So
yeah, and I know even with different players, I just sometimes I do have to check in with one player. I remember hugging him for a very long time. It lasted over a minute. However, at the time, it made sense in character because it was an in-character thing.
Yeah.
And then with someone else, I did a lot of hugging with this guy, and he said, by the way, I have a girlfriend. That's actually... And he said that out of character, and I said, yeah, I'm role-playing.
Awkward.
But it's one of those... Yeah. But some people just need that clarification.
Yeah.
So that, afterwards, it wasn't awkward for him anymore. Yes, does it take me out of it? Yes, it does.
So question for you. Do you think he threw that caveat at you because he was actually feeling something for you and needed to clarify within himself?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
That he wasn't feeling anything
Let's
to
see
you?
how vain Ryan is.
The way I play it is that I kind of agree with John that everyone is an adult and makes adult decisions. And so unless you clarify to me that that there is something that you want further, then I assume that it's all just role play. And this has even happened in the past where I've been playing with a character for 2 years, intimate, but not romantic, but intimate. And then finding out later from the guy, yeah, why do you think I hugged you that much? I'm bi. And I'm like, oh, I thought you were just in character.
Yeah.
I think it's better to assume the, in-character intent, because I think a lot of people actually, well, maybe not a lot, but the problem, I think, is when people assume the opposite.
That happened to me. So the last roleplay or LARP that I had done, I in character use another character to get information, but my character was a flirt, so she was immediately like, "Hi, how are you?" sort of deal. Like, "Can you help me with?" And the guy obviously went along with it just fine, and then we met each other at another event to like say bye to everybody, and he literally like grabbed me and was like, "Hi," and I was like, "Hi," pushing him away, and he actually almost twisted my arm because we were dancing, and he like grabbed my arm to like pull me close when I was trying to like yank away from him, and he went to go and try to almost kiss me, and I was like, "No." No, like, I'm with somebody, and he was like, "Oh, but your character," and I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
that was my character, that's not me,
No,
sorry."
I definitely think it's better to just assume the in-character and not assume out of character at all.
Right.
But unfortunately, not everybody's smart like that.
Because I assumed that, and I was like, "Well, shit."
At the same time, I have had in-character interactions with people that have led to me dating them.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And that's cool.
Yeah, and usually what you do is, it's usually afters, and then you say, "Hey, do you want to go out?" And if that person is willing to go out with you, and then you discuss some more, then you know that there's something else there. So,
Have you guys explained what afters is, by the way? We keep
oh
talking
no,
about
yes,
it.
thank you.
No.
So after,
Fail.
that's not fail. It's like this is an education moment.
Yeah.
So afters is usually after game.
Well,
where
the day the game ends, so
Or the game
Sunday in
ends.
most cases.
Yeah, and so everybody usually goes out to lunch, and we all like get together out of character, and we all discuss about what had happened over that weekend. We decompress, and we all have fun, just as our normal selves, to kind of remind ourselves, like, hey, we're still people afterwards. Especially if you've been fighting aggressively in character, it's like, let's buy you a drink.
Bob's Burgers would have definitely been better if they had done that. Just saying.
The Bob's, in their LARP episode?
Yes.
Yes.
They did not do this.
They did not do
decompress.
this. No, they ate all the
There
cake.
was a LARP episode of Bob's Burgers?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that was our previous episode.
Oh, I'm going to have to watch that now.
Yes.
You know, the games that I played out east, at least in those games, afters wasn't a tradition.
Yeah. I hadn't heard about
I
it
only
until
experienced it when I
got
moved out here.
My first thought was, but I like to shower before I eat.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you're making me eat before I'm clean. Oh, God. But it's fun. I really enjoy the tradition.
I really like it, even though it takes like sometimes I feel it's like 5-hour lunch.
Yeah.
Because LARPers like to talk.
And I'm sure the restaurant feels like it's 5-hour lunch too, because they're like, oh my God, people get out.
Just go home.
I think we're at a good stopping point at this point.
Yeah.
We covered everything that we wanted about role play love, which Angela came up with this title, so thank you.
Brilliant.
That was brilliant. I loved it.
Thank
All right,
you.
listeners, so if you guys want part 2 of this, let us know in the comments on our Facebook or Instagram.
Or wherever we're going to post this.
Right. And then we will come up with a part 2, and hopefully we'll have Angela and John back with us, right?
Yeah, we'd love to come back.
That'd be awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, and thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for being here. So until next time, we're signing off from Life Action Roleplay.
Bye!
Bye!